Yo, what's going on? It's your boy Madara 28 here. As the title suggests, I'll be talking about One Piece chapters 919, 919 through 920. 919 will be from the official viz, what I go through. 920 is from what myself and Grim call the hood translations, i.e., manga stream and Jai Minning's box until we get the official translation Monday morning. So right now I'm checking the volume, make sure it sounds good. So I'm gonna open up the YouTube channel real quick and make sure I'm not echoing or anything like that's going on. So give me 1 second while I do that. All right, I think it sounds. Yeah, we're good. We're in business. All right, yeah. So, as I said, my thoughts on uh, on the chapter, or even really on the overall arc. I'm really enjoying it right now, but 919 in general, it was a very good chapter. It we're still in the setup of the arc. So obviously, at the end of the chapter, we got the reveal that Kinemon and them are from 20 years ago. Uh, they're not from our timeline, so that's why it makes sense, and that's why when you go all the way back to Punk Hazard, that's why it makes sense that Kinemon was so freaked out when he saw Nami. He was always talking about her breast band and how she wasn't modest and how a woman should be modest and stuff like that. He was very prudish with how he approached things, and so that makes a lot more sense than what we were getting uh, from these characters when we first met them, and then ultimately when Momonosuke said he met Roger, now we know he really did. He really did meet Roger, which we know Roger died 24 years ago in the story's current timeline. So 20 years ago plus 24, Momonosuke would have been 4 years old when Roger came to Wano Kuni, when Odin went with him. So that's why Momo said he met Roger. And when Usopp called him a liar, that's why Momo had the dot dot dot, because at that point in time they still were not fully trusting of the Straw Hat Pirates, even though they clearly rescued Momo, and even though all the events that were happening on Zoe. But the chapter in general, if we're starting from the beginning, we find out that Speed is taking Otama back to Hitetsu, uh, Tengu Yama, the one who Luffy picked up Nidai Kitetsu from. And so it seems like her Kibi Dango is a permanent effect, probably until if Momo gets knocked out, like every other Devil Fruit, the effect will wear off. But right now, it seems to be a permanent effect. Speed is underneath her control, and she's taking Otama back. Otama's taking one of the apples back to Tinguyama with her. Luffy asks Otama to let the old man know that he's going to keep the sword because that's the only way he can be a samurai. So, according as we know again at the end of the chapter, it says the 9 red scabbards were going to appear and take out Kaido and Orochi. Well, Shodai Katetsu is a red scabbard, and I'm pretty sure Nidai Katetsu is a red scabbard too. So you can kind of put two and two together there that the 9 red scabbards, one Luffy, two Zoro, and then I'm pretty sure arbitrarily, not twelve, arbitrarily, since Luffy said you have to have a samurai sword in order to be a samurai. Uh, Obviously, I believe Kinemon, one of his swords are as a red scabbard, and I'm pretty sure Kanjuro and Raizo and all them too. So if we do get an alliance between Kid and Hawkins and them, as we've all believed for so many years, I'm pretty sure they will arbitrarily also have a red scabbard. But since it says the 9 scabbards, I'm sure that's going to involve some of the Straw Hat crew as well, who are going to take on Kaido uh, later on in this arc. But I don't want to keep on getting deviating too far ahead. 919 was very funny. It was a very hilarious chapter. If you want my ultimate review of it, I'll give it now. I'd say it's about a 8 to 8.5. Law in this chapter was perfect. His whole comedy bit between, talking about how Kinemon only comes out at night and him trying to allude to Luffy that he's the ghost. And then ultimately it's because Kinemon has explosive diarrhea. And so he was kind of purposely throwing him off. Uh, just trying to really get at Luffy to get a rise out of him. Uh, Law with the townspeople when they were thanking them, he was like, "Oh, I don't want to be thanked. It makes me sick." But this is the same Law who took care of the kids on Punk Hazard, so he's just being bashful. Uh, and as usual, Zoro is always a good. He has a terrible sense of direction, but he's a good judge of character. And I say that because remember, Zoro didn't trust Nico Robin. He was like, "Oh, I know you're hiding something. I don't trust you." He told that to her in Skypiea. Even though ultimately he tried to save her from Inaru, he didn't trust Robin at that time. And then we get to this chapter, and he knows that Okiku's hiding something. Now, it might be that she was from 20 years ago, but other people in the community are saying, well, maybe she's the informant for Kaido because, like Jack knew for real that that Raizo was on Zoe. And the only way he could know that, and the only way he could find Zoe would be that one, a mink. And many people have said that as Faust because of Hawkins. Faust is one of Hawkins' subordinates. So maybe it was Faust who told him. But then you have other people who are saying, nah, it could be her because she was with them 20 years ago. My only question is, why would she betray them now? Like, that really doesn't make any sense. I've always thought it was Otsuru because when Batman showed up and Zoro was like this, and Gazelle Man snatched Otama, he was like, this seems well planned out. And they were following the lead of Otsuru. So that's who I think the traitor is. But and because Otsuru knew that Okiku only arrived there in Kuri a month ago. So, and then not to bunny trail too much, but then this leads all the way back to when Nekomamushi said the whole event only happened a few months ago. Now, what was strange is that he said he was alluding to that Odin only died a few months ago. And so for Kinemon and them, yes, since they were sent through time, for them it has only been a few months. But for Nekomamushi and Arashi, it's been 20 years. They didn't go through the whole time loop with Momo's mom, who at the time fruit or the Toki Toki. They didn't go through the time loop. It was only those 5 sent forward in time, meaning Raizo, Kinemon, Kanjuro, Momo, and Okiku. Inu and Neku were captured, and again, when he said back in Zoe that it has only been a few months since that event, a lot of us were put underneath the impression that Odin had only been killed a few months ago, but it's really been 20 years. And so that brings up a lot of thoughts, theories, and questions about the story progression. What's kind of getting back to 919, what was weird is that, as we always talk about in the hood translations in the school, when the on the hood translation, Jaimini's box, one of the students in there who has the 2 rulers, he says that he's training to use Orochi's 2-sword style. But in the official Viz translations, it says Shogun Kurozumi Orochi. Orochi, the 2-sided. And he has 2 rulers and he whacks one of the kids with it. but it doesn't say that he's two sword style like the Hood translation says. So many people are throwing up, well, maybe he's not a two sword style. Maybe he's a swordsman, but he just uses one sword. I think he's probably two sword style user. Uh, Again, it would be perfect for Zoro to go against this guy. And according to the legend, Japanese mythology, uh, Orochi was a, I don't mean to bunny trail again, but Orochi was a legendary snake, was 8-headed snake. And the guy who beat him, how he beat him was that he lured Orochi out and gave him sake. Orochi loved sake. So he waited till Orochi got drunk and came out, cut off all 9 heads at the same time, cut up his body, and inside of his body was legendary blade Kusanagi. If you've watched Naruto, you would know that Orochimaru had the legendary blade uh, Kusanagi. And so in this, I would hope that one of the blades he has in One Piece is the Kusanagi. And I would hope that is one of the 12 Supreme Owasamono blades. That's my hope because we haven't seen one. The only one that we've seen so far that we can date is Yoru, which is what this is the sword Mihawk wields. Now it could be the case to where Oda could arbitrarily say, because in that picture when Itetsu was talking about legendary blades, he also showed Whitebeard's glaive or his Bicento. So that could also be one of the legendary 12. Oda could find a cheap cop out and do it that way. I hope he doesn't, but he could do it that way. It's his story. Um, but I'm hoping that if Orochi is a two sword style user, I'm hoping that one of the blades is the legendary blade Kusanagi, and it's one of the 12 supreme swords. Uh, the teacher, many people have suspected that she could either be a snake tribe user like Boa's sisters and herself, but others are saying it's a double fruit. I don't know if you've ever watched the 47 Ronin, the newest one with Keanu Reeves, but one of the antagonists in there. I forget her name. I know Roger mentioned in the video, and I believe Sawyer mentioned it too. I forgot the name, so I'm not going to butcher it right now. But basically, it's a mythological creature uh, who's a dragon and can shapeshift. Also, in the 47 Ronin, that was one of the antagonists. She was dressed in green, and she could turn into a dragon, which again was the right hand of the shogun. Possibly the shogun in this, in Oda's interpretation, is also the dragon fruit user. Again, legendary mythology, in the body of the shogun or in the body of Orochi was the Kusanagi. So he could do 2-in-1, or he could make it to where the shogun has a right hand man who's actually stronger than him, and that's who Zoro fights. We don't know, but she seems to either be snake neck or she ate a devil fruit that has turned her into this creature, into this animal. Right after that scene from the school, then we get into where Nico Robin is at when she's undercover as the geisha, and she's talking to one of Kurosumi, one of Orochi's clan members. His name is Napping Kiyoshiro. He's the swindler in Orochi's clan. And so he goes over the past about Momo's mom and how she mentioned that in 20 years' time, the 9 Red Scabbards would appear and they were going to take down Orochi. And so Orochi is worried about this event, and he's very, very worrisome. But then also, in the same breath, he believes that Kinemon and them are all ghosts. I guess he believes that they really did kill them in the fire, and that he believes that what they're seeing are, I guess in this case, yokai or an apparition of them. He doesn't know if they're real or not, but we know that uh, Joker, aka Doflamingo, came in contact with him. Kaido knows that they're real. He's come into contact with them 20 years ago, and I believe in the present time as well. Momo's flashback that he had right after he ate it was either before or after he ate the artificial dragon fruit that he remembered Kaido reaching out to him. So, and we know that he ate the dragon fruit current timeline, which would be 20 years in the present to this day. So that's where we kind of get another time dilation thing going on. But again, that was that scene with napping Kiyoshiro and the and I believe the hotel manager that he's talking to. Right after that, we come back to Okiku, Zoro, and Luffy. Zoro's somehow gotten lost, as Zoro usually does. And then you see Okiku crying, and Luffy coming across the graves. And then again, this is where I kind of talked about how Law was trying to spook Luffy out about Kinemon, and then we get revealed that Kinemon's basically just had an explosive case of diarrhea, and that's why he's only coming out at nighttime because I guess that's when it alleviates some. After that weird scene, oh, this crack humor, literally. We get reunited with Sanji, uh, Nami, Chopper, Carrot, and Brooke. We find out that that Sanji, the reason why his shirt is off is that he was deep diving to find Luffy. He thought Luffy ended up at the bottom of the whirlpool, but they found Luffy's Vivi card. And so I believe that that's how they went on and came over to this part of the island because they were following the Vivi card, and then they just happened to bump into him. But what's interesting is that Momonosuke is training with two wooden practice swords, meaning that maybe Momo has been brought up. Maybe that's a requirement to be Shogun, is that you have to be two sword style. Because we learned in 920, and not to jump ahead, but we learned in 920 that his dad, Odin, was proficient in the way of the samurai, in the way of the sword. And so we see Momo in 919 practicing with a sword. So maybe that's a requirement to be Shogun, is that you have to be proficient in the way of Bushido, way of the sword. And then by the end of it, we get the whole plan. We get not the plan, we get from Kinemon and them basically telling us that they're from 20 years ago and now they're in the current timeline. And so right after that, we jump into, as I said, current chapter 920. This is where we get more plot set up, and basically we learn about what the rest of the arc is going to be about. Which I'll give a brief summary of it. The rest, they plan to attack in 2 weeks' time during the Fire Festival. Kinemon says ideally we'll need 5,000 men. Now we'll wait for the official translation because it could say we have 5,000 men, but in this translation he says ideally we would need 5,000 men to wage war, but they're not trying to wage war against Kaido. They're trying to assassinate Kaido on Onishima Island, or Land of the Ogre, or Land of the Oni, as it translates to English. This basically specifies for a lot of us, people like Roger, who also made a theory that he believed that that your boy Kaido was a Oni. This basically pretty much confirms it because he has a club and he has a gourd that he drinks out of. So this could confirm that Kaido is a Oni who probably came across a human model devil fruit like Chopper did, or he came across a human, I don't know. He could have come across a Zoma fruit that makes him look human-like, but he was really an Oni, or he's a human who came across the Oni fruit. But what's interesting about this chapter is that Kaido was there in Wano 20 years ago. Now, one, either this means that we really do need to put respect on Moria's name, because I thought Moria. No, but then again, maybe not, because maybe they were rivals 20 years ago, and then Kaido beat him up. But when we get to Thriller Bark, it makes it seem like it was kind of a recent issue to where Kaido whooped him. But we know that Kaido has been on Wano at least for the last 20 years. We get the silhouettes of what looks to believe to be the calamities. You see Jack on the far left. You see one in the middle who looks like Pika. I'm pretty sure Oda's going to change the final design. I'm pretty sure that's going to be a fan outcry that, hey, why does this guy look like Pika? And Oda's probably going to change it. The guy on the far right, he has a smile on his face. We don't really know what he's going to do. But again, what's interesting is that Oda is kind of, I don't know if y'all remember, but at one point in time in the series, Oda showed us the Four Yonko before the whole Marineford War. And the silhouette that he gave for Kaido was like this gigantic head and a big smile. And a lot of people thought that Kaido would be modeled after Napoleon, that Oda would make it to where he's really short, but he has a huge head. But in this chapter, the former guy who was, I guess, the head samurai or head boss in Kuri before Oden settled it, his name again was Ashura. And if you look at his design, he has the same head and hairdo as the first quote unquote Kaido reveal pre-time skip. So I guess this is Oda finding either a good way to reuse that design, or some could say he's just doing a cop out. I personally think if you have a design, why not use it? Uh, so I mean, in this chapter, again, we get a silhouette of Odin. Odin doesn't show us who he really is. We don't get to see what Momo's mom looks like or his little sister. So hinting that maybe now, according to the story, Momo's mom says that she's reached her terminus, that she's not jumping anymore, that this is where she's at. So seemingly she died the night of the fire. But if she died, why not just show us her face? More than likely, she's probably still alive. And then we don't get to see Hiyori. Now, some people have speculated that Hiyori is Otama, but the problem with that is that Okiku has seen Otama. So if anyone would recognize Otama, it would have to be Okiku, unless Hiyori sent Otama ahead a few years before Momo and them arrived. That's where we would have to be to believe that. So I don't think that that's the case. Could be wrong, but again, I don't think that's the case. The beginning of the chapter, I know this is kind of all over the place, but just follow me. The beginning of the chapter, again, we get, the past revealed. Kinemon is talking to them about the place they're at. It's Odin Castle. But before that, its real name was Kuri Castle, because Odin had to settle the land. He got kicked out of the flower capital by his father, the shogun, and he was wandering until he came to Kuri. Kuri was a place of outlaws where a lot of rogue samurai, aka Ronin, were at, and Odin eventually challenged the strongest one there, Asura Doji. And then that was when he basically began to settle his name. Again, it was a place of heinous crimes. And again, he took out Ashura, and that's when he began to settle it. Eventually, his dad found out about it, that he was settling the land. And then from there on, his dad named Odin the daimyo of Kuri. Kuri became an official residence on the map. It was known as a paradise, while Odin's dad was still alive. Which Odin's dad's name, according to the Hood translation, is Sukiyaki. I'm pretty sure it won't change because at least Japanese box is right about names, except for Sulong. But we'll still have to see. After that, we get Zoro. Seemingly, he's killed a lion, or maybe the lion was already dead, or I mean, not a lion, tiger. And he sees that there's a wharf down there where there's boats and ships. So it seems like, again, Zoro's sense of direction. He has a terrible sense of direction, but he usually arrives either first or second to where the Straw Hats ultimately have to go, i.e., Enies lobby in the Water 7 arc. They needed to get on top of the Tower of Justice. Luffy got up there first because he fought Bluno, but right after that, Zoro was up there first because he used Dragon Twister. And he landed first, and then Sanji landed, and everybody else landed right after that. Um, then we go to Duke Inarashi. You know, then we get revealed that this is the place where they met Odin. The beach that he's on is where they met Odin. So Zunisha is somewhere around the island. I'm pretty sure uh, Zunisha will be a key. Probably not. I won't say key, but might be a key player into the war. Zunisha might get killed, and then the Minks might settle on Oni Onishima Island uh, after the reign of Kaido is over. That might be the new territory since they're going to be opening up the borders of Wano. Maybe the Minks settle on Oni Island. Um, you get Inarashi reminiscing about it, and then right after that, after the backstory, we learn about how Whitebeard was charmed and Roger was captivated by Samurai the Wano country, and then we get to learn about how when Odin died, and Shogun Orochi, before he became Shogun, obviously he overthrew Sakayuki stepped down. We don't really know because Oda doesn't go over the full backstory. I'm pretty sure we're going to get more as it goes on. Uh, but again, as I said, Kaido's been there for 20 years. He says, however, Kaido anticipated our plan because their plan was to was escape to the castle. Once they failed to save Odin, they were going to go to the castle. Kaido, figuring that out, set the place on fire. So when they got there, it was already burning up. And then again, as I said, you get the silhouettes of Jack and the two other calamities. Um, Now, what's intriguing about this is that again, there was that Tokyo event last year. I don't know, many people have said Okiku looks like the girl character from that, but it actually could be Momo's mom that looks like that because it kind of has the same hairstyle, except for in that picture, I believe her hair was tied up in the back. This one just seems to be long flowing hair. But again, we will find out, or that could be the daughter, Hiyori, because Lady Toki had the Toki Toki no Mi. So we know that Kanamon and them got inside of there where they found them, and then we know that Lady Toki sent them off forward in time, uh, with Momo being there by his mom's side. Uh, and then we find out that they traveled to the future and they landed there. Uh, it seems like they fell from the sky down to the castle burned up in ruins, and that's where they found their graves. And people have pointed out that the guy in the hat is the same guy on the front on the cover page during one of the cover stories who was sharing a cup of sake with Crocus. Now apparently only 5 people went for it in time, and there were 7 total there. So those 2 people that didn't go for it lived through the whole 20 years, as well as Neku and Inu. So you can kind of put 2 and 2 together. Apparently, that guy had the same cloak as Shiki. So in the community, people are saying that it's Golden Lion Shiki. Some are saying that it's probably Hitetsu because he said that he couldn't go into town for certain reasons. We'll find out eventually who it is. Again, Odin just kind of setting everything up. When they got there, they found their gravestones. They saw the factories, all the pollution going on. So, and then you know, then they found out that they had people in the country who shared their sentiment of wanting to overthrow Kaido and the Shogun, but obviously they need a force to build up. And so this is where we get into the part of where they leave Wano to go and recruit. Obviously, they were going to go to the Minks to link up with them because they previously had a run-in with them, so they knew them. And then they were going to, and now they have the 9 Straw Hat crew members. And we know eventually we're going to come across Kid because he's still on the island. Killer is somewhere. X Drake is on the island. Hawkins and Scratchman Apu more than likely was the one I believe to have gotten Jack out of the sea because he called uh, Kaido at the end of that chapter, or at the end of at the end of the chapter where you see Jack underneath the water. You see that Apu was the one who called him. So more than likely, Apu got Jack out from where Zunisha swung her trunk, but we'll find out eventually what that all means. Now, I don't know if this is any point of relevance. Uh, no, it is a point of relevance. That kind of half moon mark that they have on their legs. We know that they plan to strike again, as I said earlier, the fire festival. More than likely, it's going to be a full moon because obviously, Inarashi said Jack didn't fight them at their true power. Once they do, they'll be in Sulong form, and more than likely, they're going to body him. Well, maybe not body Jack, but it'll be a real fight, so they can use their full power, and then Kinemon goes, through where they went, Zoe, Dressrosa, when he lost Conjuro, where he got sliced up by Law, when his hair was out of place. And then when Sanji put his hair back together and found out he was a samurai from Wano. As I said, we'll find out in the official viz if they have the 5,000, or he said ideally we'll need 5,000. Of course, Kinemon said they don't want a war. They want to just do an assassination, but Kaido wants a war. And that was when he first landed in 795 Suicide. He says, Joker, it's time to start a war that'll basically end all wars. And we've heard Oda say that Wano is going to make Marineford look cute. So we're getting a war, whether we want it or not, whether we think it's possible or not, whether we're tired of the jumping around. We're going to be jumping around if this is actually going to be a war. So expect what like we got in Dressrosa, jumping around to characters that we may not care about at the time, but eventually will come to light, just like we did on the on that front when we got the Grand Fleet. Now, as people have pointed out, that structure that we kept seeing each time we would go to Kaido, and a lot of us thought, oh, it was just one of those old style Japanese buildings that you would see in the feudal era. No, that's actually the skull on Onigashima, uh, which is Kaido's headquarters. So and it has those two horns that go up. We were actually seeing the silhouette of that island. So that's basically the chapter. As I said, those are my thoughts. I think I would say 919 was an 8. I'll easily give 920 a 9 because Oda could have been super trash with the time fruit and made it to where you could go forward and backward in time, but he didn't. He made it to where you can only go forward in time, which is cool. So we don't have to worry about Luffy miraculously getting sent back in time to the Void Century to learn about it and then getting pulled forward. I'm glad about that. One thing I really hope, though, I guess it'll be cool if Lady Hiyori is from the Void Century, but I kind of wanted to learn from a giant. I kind of want to learn from a giant. Not saying that we've learned already, but if we do learn, I want to learn from a giant about the Void Century. That's what I'm hoping we learn in Elbath. But if Oda wants to reveal it now as his story, he can do that. All I'm hoping is that is great writing. Anyway, this has been your boy, Moderator 28. Again, getting my thoughts out there, talking about the chapters and what I thought, and talking about some of the theories that are going around. Thought it was a great chapter. Thought it was a great read. You guys have been great. Thank you for listening to me ramble disjointedly. Thank you for sitting through it. I'll plan to do more of these as often as I can when I'm not busy with life and with the business that I started on the side of my job. But yeah, thank you for your time. Thank you for checking it out. Y'all have a good one. Bye.